You are listening to KLRN Radio, where liberty and reason still reign.
All writers are prone to becoming so attached to our characters and stories that we struggle to see why a passage may not be working. It takes another set of eyes to help us nurture our writing to full maturity. At Black Wolf Editorial Services, we strive to enable writers to develop and grow, shaping stories into masterpieces that can stand the test of time. Editing services are provided for all genres and all age categories. Services range from critiques of the short story through to line edits of the full-length novel and copy editing for those preparing for publication. We also offer assistance on generating a writer's bio for your websites, as well as help with those book blurbs and promotional material. We won't abandon you to the masses. We want to celebrate with you in your successes. Black Wolf Editorial Services, nurturing your writing into maturity. For a full list of services and prices, visit us at blackwolfeditorial.com.
Individuals and businesses with tax problems, listen carefully. Do you feel like you're losing control over your finances? If you owe over $10,000 in back taxes or have unfiled tax returns, we can help you take back control. The IRS is the largest and most aggressive collection agency in the world, and they can seize your bank account, garnish your paycheck, close your business, and file criminal charges. Take control of your tax problems now by calling the experts at Tax Mediation Services and take advantage of the Fresh Start program and new laws that may allow us to negotiate a settlement for the lowest amount possible. Our team of tax attorneys and enrolled agents can stop collections and get you protected so you can take control of your financial future. Tax Mediation Services is accredited by the Better Business Bureau. Call now for a free case review and a price protection guaranteed quote.
Call Tax Mediation Services now at 800-610-9050. That's 800-610-9050. 800-610-9050.
KLRN Radio has advertising rates available. We have rates to fit almost any budget. Contact us at advertising@klrnradio.com.
This is Slickery Trigger for Rebel Road Tactical. With proper care and feeding, your pistol will be ready when you need it, there to save your life. Shouldn't your gear be that good? Whether you need a holster for comfortable everyday carry or a tough-as-nails holster for your next training course, Rebel Road Tactical has what you need. Check us out on the web at rebelroadtactical.com.
Tired of paying outrageous prices for Viagra? Well, we have great news for you. Now you can finally get Viagra at huge discounts. Healthy Man allows you to save up to $500 on Viagra. Why pay U.S. pharmacy prices of $15 per pill or more when you can get Viagra for less than $3 a pill? Call today and get 40 Viagra pills for only $99. This can cost as much as $600 at your local pharmacy. You can't afford not to call us. If you want Viagra at the lowest prices, never pay $15 a pill pharmacy prices again. Get Viagra for less than $3 a pill. Call 1-800-516-7602 today and save up to $500 and get 40 pills for just $99. Healthy Man is fast, easy, and affordable. Operators are waiting at 1-800-516-7602 to take your call right now. Call 1-800-516-7602. That's 1-800-516-7602. Again, 1-800-516-7602.
And so, my fellow Americans, ask not what your country can do for you. Ask what you can do for your country.
Freedom is never more than one generation away from extinction. We didn't pass it on to our children in the bloodstream. The only way they can inherit the freedom we have known is if we fight for it, protect it, defend it, and then hand it to them with the well-taught lessons of how they in their lifetime must do the same.
I'm not ready to end the fight. I'm not ready to back down. 'Cause I've been through hell and I don't have time to go round and round and round. It's too late to turn back now. You know I wouldn't if I could. 'Cause I'm proud as hell. I can't bring myself to do what it is you think I should.
All right, folks. Well, happy Tuesday evening. This is the Jim Nunick Show. I'm one half of the crew, Rick. She's the other half, Jen, and it's just a few minutes past the hour, and we're on KLRNradio.com live. And unlike last night, you're going to hear two voices because we had a whole cacophony of folks hanging out with us last night talking about debate. We're going to rewind it a little bit, talk about it some more, talk about some of the interesting things that have come out in the news today in regards to the debate. Also, the fact that nobody on either side understands satire anymore. That actually happened to me today on Twitter. It's been kind of entertaining. But anyway, so Miss Jen, good evening. How are you?
I'm doing pretty good. Just still trying to figure out what happened last night.
What happened is they let two kindergartners in the same room that both wanted to have peeing contests.
Fair and accurate, description, I think.
So, the one thing that I brought it up last night, but I kind of want to touch on it again and go into it in a little more detail. Did it disturb anyone that at this point the one thing that Bernie Sanders said he was going to do, which was fundamentally transform politics in America, has actually happened? Because we had both people talking about the no-fly list should become the no-buy list. We had both people talking about affordable daycare and affordable college. And who was the only person really talking about affordable college at the beginning of this whole cycle?
Yeah, I think this is, I think we all thought that would kind of be what would happen with Trump because he's a liberal Democrat, but it is unsettling.
Yeah, we all saw it coming. Anybody that's been paying attention is like, you guys know this guy's a liberal, right? No, he's not. You're a blasphemer. Trump is the savior of America. He's going to make America great again. Somebody bring me my beer.
Oh, man. Where do you start?
There's all kinds of places we could start. We could talk about some of the interesting stories that have come out in the news today about, the fact that apparently Hillary Clinton had contact lens teleprompters. I thought that was kind of interesting.
Yeah. So the conspiracy theorists are out of control. She was being fed information through this contact lens, and they think that they have it goes farther than just ignoring, the fact that Trump is insane in that, in all sorts of other regards, and just supporting him blindly. This is making up some really crazy stuff. And I'm sorry, but if the Clintons were competent enough to do a contact lens teleprompter, she certainly wouldn't have screwed up something like an email server so royally. They can't be brilliant and stupid all at the same. I guess they can. But you can't give them credit for being utterly brilliant and then be like, oh, but this whole thing is.
Come on, seriously. She can't be both an evil mastermind and Jacques Cousteau. What was the name of the dude from Pink Panther?
Yeah. I don't know the name, but I know what you mean.
Inspector Clouseau, yeah, that was it. I almost said Jacques Cousteau, and I'm like, wait, no, that's the Undersea Explorer dude. Never mind. But yeah, so she can't be both. You can't say she's an idiot on one hand because she didn't understand what the C meant in classified emails, and she didn't understand a lot of the things that she's said she's not understanding. But on the other hand, you're saying she's an evil mastermind. Dude, some of these stories remind me of, there should be some dude running around from Mission Impossible helping Hillary figure out how to use all this equipment. Paging Ethan Hunt, Mr. Hunt, please come to the debate floor and show Ms. Clinton how to use these contact lenses. Thank you. Seriously.
Right. And then, there's this wire and this pack on her back, and they're pointing to it and saying, this proves this is the type of medical device that is used with Parkinson's patients, or that is an illegal earpiece. And they've thrown around the word illegal a whole heck of a lot, which, by the way, even if it violated debate rules, nothing about feeding info would be anywhere close to an illegal action. That is absurd. But yeah, I've seen 5 or 6 different conspiracy theories about some way in which Hillary's cheating or covering something up that are absolutely insane. The right look ridiculous, and is part of why, it is part of why people have some of the stereotypes they have, and these memes are just being spread like crazy. They're sharing them tens of thousands of times, and it's just embarrassing.
No, I mean, it really is, because, look, I don't like either one of them, but the simple fact of the matter is she was, up until he got next to her, the most unelectable person on the planet. And there were several different times when he could have actually... I mean, look, let's face it. The tax thing's always been important to me, but at this point it's basically a non-issue. I'm concerned that he won't show them because it tells me that there's probably something in there that he doesn't want people to see, especially since he's lost a lawsuit to keep people from being able to see them. But is it because he's overinflating his worth like he's done all those times when they talked about the roast where he made them go over everything they were going to say and raised all the dollar amounts and raised the number of floors it is, or how far away his space station was from the Earth and how big it was, etc. So is he padding his numbers and that's why he doesn't want anybody to see, or what's the issue? And if that's the only problem, then that's one thing. But at the same time, you have to understand, this guy wants to be the president of the United States of America, and yet he's afraid to show people his tax returns. But the thing about it is just insane to me that we keep winding up coming back to these things. But let's put that to bed for a second, because when they started talking about all of these other things that they basically used as a distraction, like when they brought up the tax returns, instead of saying, look, I'm not going to release my returns. I know I said I would once the audit was complete, then I will. And he should have left it at that. But instead he says, you know what? As soon as she releases her 30-some-odd thousand emails, then I'll release my tax returns. So then it turned right back into the peeing contest that everybody knew it was going to be. I mean, for about 15 seconds, Donald Trump actually looked fairly composed and halfway normal. And then she spoke and it all went out the window.
Right. And he, that whole thing, I just don't think went over very well because he didn't really it's when he started getting her rattled. He did get her rattled during that time. But it was just kind of silly, and he didn't really hammer about why the deleted emails were important or not very well. He didn't articulate it very well. It just kind of came off a little like, oh, well, you know what? If you do it, then I will. All right, so there. It was kind of childish, I felt like.
The one thing that I can honestly say at this point is I fully understand now why he didn't want to debate Cruz one-on-one. Because there was something that somebody touched on last night that I thought was kind of important. Donald Trump really didn't have to say too much during the debates because they had so many people on the stage. He could get off a couple of one-liners here and there, get people's attention, get them cheering, and then watch the other people try to tear each other apart to get the attention back. So he never really had to say very much less anything substantive. But he doesn't know how to behave on a debate stage. He tried to do the same thing that he did when there was a group of people, expecting all of a sudden Hillary Clinton to go completely vehement, foaming at the mouth, and suddenly just kind of go off the rails, and it never really happened. The scariest thing is, as much as I don't like her, she looked more presidential than he did last night, and that upsets me and it's not because I want her to win, and again, I don't really want him to win either. But this would have been the year that we could have put somebody in the White House that would have actually accomplished something, instead of it continuing to be more of the same. And the one thing that both the RNC and the debates and now this first debate have shown me is no matter which of these people get into the White House, it's going to be more of the same because they want basically the same general things. The only thing that Donald Trump is really saying any different than what she is, hey, I'm gonna make America great again and I'm gonna build a wall. Other than that, they're basically talking about the same thing. They're both talking about out of control spending. They're both talking about doing things that we can't afford. They're both talking about how they're going to save us money on the back end by curtailing waste, fraud, and abuse. How many decades have we heard that line in a presidential debate? Has it happened before? Is it going to happen now? No. Not only no, but hell no. It's not going to happen.
Right. And I think the one thing that he's lucky for, and that does kind of serve him well, is that he doesn't look even worse than what his performance is, because this is not her forte either. She is not a good debater. She's not good on this kind of stage. I mean, she's not another Obama. There's only a few of those out there. So this is, she's not a Cruz. So could have been a lot worse, but she's also awful at this. So they kind of countered each other in that way that made, I do agree that she looked more present, definitely made more coherent points. But it wasn't so much, so drastically better or something that it's just like hitting you over the head with it. I mean, she also was not that great, and she did get rattled, and she didn't answer some questions well, and she couldn't come up with clever responses like I could tell she was trying to do and drawing out the ums, but that's just not who she is. That's not how she works. So she can't make that happen on the spot. I think, it could have been a lot worse if the candidate he was facing was a more skilled debater.
Look, just watching that performance last night, could you imagine what would have happened if Donald Trump and Ted Cruz were on the same stage by themselves?
He would have eaten him alive.
I mean, look, at this point, I'm not even a fan of Cruz anymore because I was really irritated when and don't get me wrong, I understand why he did it. His donors were pressuring him. He felt like he really didn't have any options. And like you said, he has to have some loyalty to the party. I understand all of that. But the diehard American in me who's always fighting for the underdog and wants somebody to stand up and say, no more of this crap, we're done, we're going to fix it. That was Cruz for a minute. And then he just said, yeah, nope, going to go ahead and half-heartedly endorse Trump. I'm going to tell you that I'm going to endorse him, but then I'm still not going to tell you whether or not I think he'd make a good president. So I'm still not quite sure what he was doing there. But at the same time, with this whole thing, if those two had been on a debate stage alone, this would have been an entirely different election cycle. I guarantee it, because Cruz would have eaten his lunch. Because the one thing that nobody talks about with Cruz is because he's always compared to a robot, and they say he sounds flat, etc. What they don't realize is when he goes into that flat monotone thing that he does for a few seconds here and there, it's because he's actually recalling things from memory. Cruz can remember everything he's ever heard. Can you imagine what he would have done to Donald Trump being able to remember everything he's ever heard on a debate stage?
Right, especially after months, if there was months leading up to it. I mean, the way that this goes down, like, how is Hillary not more prepared? And I think, Trump had so many opportunities. There were so many times I was screaming at my TV, like, say this, throw this back at her. Why didn't you point out this now? And, if we leave behind for the moment that, he's plant or her friend or, trying to help her, whatever, then I think that comes from the way in which he doesn't prepare. And it doesn't speak to how prepared she was, only that he wasn't prepared enough to really be able to, drive some points home. And she left him, she left him wide open so many times to really get her. And he couldn't do it. And I think that's some of his lack of preparedness. In that knowing that if she says this, do this. If she says that, do this. I think that he preps some, but I think I think that it's vastly different from a traditional presidential debate prep. I think he did the Trump prep, which is more of just, I just don't feel like it, anything that is very effective, especially against someone like her, who's kind of going to read off her talking points and not be very creative on the spot. And he can be creative on the spot, usually in a childish, insulting manner. But if he had really prepped and been able to hone that ability into true points that could hurt her, I think it would have been a far different debate. But Trump's going to Trump, so he won't do it. You can't expect him to.
It just, like I said, it amazes me because, this was supposedly, at least from all accounts of the press, probably one of the most watched debates in U.S. history. I know of some people, actually I think Dan mentioned this last night, I know somebody did, where they were actually in New York City and a lot of the bars, they were actually running the debates instead of Monday Night Football. And there were some bar owners that opted to run the football game still because they figured there'd be less fights. But, it's just... When you have this many people paying attention and all you see is a couple of monkeys dressed in suits flinging poo at one another, is this really what we've become?
Unfortunately, yep. I mean, short answer, that it is what we've become, and it's very disheartening, and it's also kind of frightening. I think that I just feel like it was such a wash in a lot of regards, and then I think there's ways in which she clearly won. But for it to even be close with a candidate like Donald Trump, who brags about not taking advice, not asking for forgiveness, not being prepared, those kinds of things, is just a very flawed and egotistical human being. It shows you how truly awful she is that she did not win this running away.
Well, can you imagine what it was like in her, she's living in a cave nowadays, some sort of mansion, some high-rise apartment, who knows. But can you imagine what it was like to be around her this morning? Because here she had her shot. She'd prepared. She had freaking Mark Cuban pretending to be Donald Trump, and she couldn't put him away last night. She got close. I think, honestly, she had him on the ropes a couple of different times, and I think there were a couple of things that he hit her back on pretty well. All in all, I think the first debate between these two went better than the first debate between Romney and Trump. I almost said Romney and Trump. Romney and Obama, because Obama was either suffering from lack of oxygen or had decided to partake of a brownie before the debate last time. I'm not sure. Because he just wasn't there. And honestly, I think at that point he had assumed his career was over. I really think at some point he thought he was done, and I think that's why he kind of phoned it in at that first debate, and then something changed. And then he realized that people were still working him behind the scenes, because look, there were some shady things that happened in that second debate. I'm not going to deny that. I also know there were some things that happened in that second debate that Romney should have capitalized on, and his team decided not to do that because they were going to take the high road, and I think that's what cost them the election. And I think that's why everybody glommed on so hard this time when Trump, a guy who up until now has taken no prisoners, doesn't take any BS, decided he was going to throw his hat in the ring for president for real. Because that's what drew me to him for about 2, 3, maybe 4 weeks. It was nice to finally see somebody get in there and go bare knuckles and just say what he needed to say and get his point across. But then I realized the man doesn't have an off switch. At least until last night. I don't think he ever found his on switch.
Yeah, I think that's right. I mean, that 30 minutes was pretty decent. As far as, he was trumping. He was not good at debating, but he was doing what he does, and where he gets people stumbling and stuttering and not able to, form their thoughts and retaliate. And so that first 30 minutes was pretty good. Then we get into more of the thick of some things, and he's not, I think it comes when he's not on the defensive. When he's not on the defensive, everything comes off kind of dim. It's not exciting. It's not intriguing. His manner of speaking is not all that interesting, and he doesn't use great language. He's not a great orator. So
that's Trump though. Even he admits that he's a brawler, and he does the same thing verbally. And that's when he's involved in a good brawl and he's got stuff going back and forth and he's able to get off the one-liners. It's great. It's entertaining. I've never once said it that up until last night, watched the debate that he was involved in that I wasn't at least entertained in. But we're now getting to the point where he can't just entertain. It can't be a flash in the pan anymore.
But he let her get the upper hand when they were having to actually talk about some things, and there wasn't to be defensive about and yell at her for. So that's when people start tuning out, and it's like, this is boring. And, granted, we don't want it to be entertaining because he's throwing insults. As far as like looking at this as a serious debate, but it is interesting that can't carry the water he needs to carry unless he's being angry and being, having to defend himself. Otherwise, it falls on, you just can't, you don't want to listen, you don't even care. And it's just very monotone and boring.
Well, it's because that's the caricature that he's painted of himself. That's the point. Donald Trump, up until last night, nobody ever really saw the real Donald Trump. I submit to you that for about the first 10 minutes of that debate, that was the actual Donald Trump. The rest of this that he does is stuff that he's learned how to do. It's stuff that he's taught himself how to do. It's no different than you or I, like when I'm doing a radio show. When you talk to me in person, I don't sound nearly like what I sound like right now. I don't typically carry the same type of energy. There are things that happen when you start performing for a living, even if you do it starting as a hobby. There are things that you start developing, and that's what Trump has figured out how to do through through the reality TV and all the other things that he's used to garner his fame and his name recognition. He has figured out how to entertain and how to perform. And that's the problem. Up until now, Donald Trump has been a performer and nothing more. Last night, he couldn't just be a performer because there weren't enough people for him to draw off of, and there weren't enough people for him to deflect to. It was just him and just her. And he had so many times when he could have just brought something home. He could have stayed on her about the emails instead of making it an excuse as to why he wasn't going to show his tax returns because she wouldn't show her emails. He should have stayed on her about those emails and told everybody why they're as important as they are. Look, at this point, we know, at least as well as we can know, because I know that WikiLeaks has been faking some things lately, that apparently there were emails in that stuff that was leaked that showed that Hillary Clinton said in unsecured emails where the ambassador was going to be at a certain particular time on a certain particular day. And with the footprint and with the patterns of U.S. Secret Service, etc., and all the people that watch those type of folks, it's pretty easy to stake out a couple of different places and wait for some black SUVs to pull up and start figuring out where they're going to go. Because when you're going into Libya, there's only a couple of ways to get there. It's either going to be by port or by airport. There's really not any other way to get there if you're coming in from out of the country. So all they had to do was put teams on both places and wait for a very significant footprint to show up, because the way this stuff is handled is all handled with a textbook, and people know that. So the fact that that information was available on an unsecured email, I mean, look, I know somebody that does work in intelligence. I've actually known them for a long time. We were friends. We grew up together. And one of the things that he's told me is because he saw some of the stuff that was coming across the WikiLeaks, and he said, look, this actually looks legit. Some of the stuff you can tell they're kind of making it up for publicity because it looks like typeface, etc. But this actually looks legit, and it has just enough redacted where I actually think this is possibly a good piece of intelligence. And this would have been enough if I were still doing what I would have been doing, that I would have wanted it completely redacted, burned, and shredded, because it would have been easy enough to find him based on the information in this email. It would be like going to a hotel chain in a town that you've never been at before, but you know what a Best Western looks like. It would have been that simple to find him.
And that's just crazy. I mean, to me, that is unacceptable. And I just, everything about Libya, everything about Hillary's involvement, and then, to hardly even bring up Benghazi. I mean, there were so many open opportunities. This is what I think the guest last night, Susan Swift, she was so right. This was the debate of missed opportunities, mostly on his part. There were so many things. He just, even in Trump's way, he could just go, well, you shouldn't even be eligible to run. You were investigated by the FBI and you blah, 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 blah. And the director even said that, and he kind of went with the people plead the fifth and that kind of thing. But he just doesn't make pointed arguments well. And that's going to be so much of the problem here with beating her on the debate stage. It's just probably not ever going to happen.
Well, I mean, the thing that actually kind of disappoints me a little bit, and this is not going to be news for some of you, but some of you know that over the last few months I was actually in talks with a syndication company that ultimately decided that because I was trying to sell myself as a conservative talk show host, yet I refused to really get behind or even talk very nicely about the GOP nominee for most of the time, they had opted not to go with me. So I have to say secretly, and it probably would have upset some of you in the groups that I'm in, but I was secretly just hoping against hope last night that he was going to give me something to latch onto so I could come back to these people and say, you know what, after last night's debate, I'm still not going to be completely sold on him, but I can start giving him a little bit of credit. Nothing like that happened. He left so many things on the table, so many things that he should have capitalized on, and he didn't. He's been the one that's basically been billed as the anti-Romney because he was going to be the one that got on the debate stage, went for blood, and took no prisoners. He became Romney before our eyes last night.
And then I saw today that he said something about, want to embarrass her. What? Like he gives a hoot about that. Are you kidding?
I think he actually does, though, because remember, I know that everybody thinks that there's no way at this point because of all the smack they talk about each other that they're still friends. I have friends that are that way, folks. We talk the worst possible crap about each other in front of people, then we go laugh about it later because we're like, hey, man, did you see that? She really thought you were serious when you said that about me. And I'm like, well, actually, I was, but it's still funny. There are people that are like that. I mean, granted, I'm a little odd. I understand that. But I seriously, I have a guy that I used to work with at Convergys whose first name is Tom. I'm not going to give his last name out on the air. And for about the first 6 months we worked together, we hated each other. But it was because he was always one of those people that I guess he saw the smart aleck in me and I saw the smart aleck in him. So for about 6 months we rubbed each other the wrong way. Then probably about 7-8 months into my being there, before you knew it, every other week we were in the office having a conversation with HR because one of us had done something in front of other people that had made them feel uncomfortable, even though we were laughing our rear ends off. There's just people that are like that. And I think with as twisted as these two are, that's probably the type of friendship that they have. I guarantee you that anytime she says something completely underhanded about him or he says something completely underhanded about her, they're probably on the phone 5 minutes later laughing and yucking it up while everybody's talking about it on Twitter.
Yeah, I mean, it's very possible. But I think even if it is, I still think that I think it wasn't really because he didn't want to attack her. I think he just wasn't on his game to. And, maybe some of it has to do with not feeling well and, whatever else. I don't know. The sniffle.
No stamina.
Mike. Just ridiculous. I mean, he's just lying. Just lying because he can't help it or because he thinks that having a cold is a weakness or what? I mean, that's just ridiculous. It's utterly ridiculous. And that right there should be a reason why, everybody goes, what? You just lied to our faces for no reason. You lied to us over a sniffle, having the sniffle, and you bold-faced lied to the American public, to reporters. What the heck will you lie about? If you'll lie about that, you'll lie about anything. And you'll lie about it constantly because there's absolutely no reason to lie about that.
I don't know. I mean, guzzling water, talking 90 miles an hour, and sniffles. I'm kind of thinking I'm having 80s flashbacks. Just saying.
Yeah, there are a lot of jokes about that going around.
All right, so believe it or not, we've already hit the bottom of the hour. We're going to have to take a really quick break. When we come back, we've got some more to talk about with the post-debate mayhem and the craziness that has been the 2016 election cycle. You are listening to Jen and Rick right here on KLNRradio.com. We'll be right back here in just a couple minutes.
Hard as hell, I can't bring myself to do what it is you think I should.
You are listening to KLRN Radio, where liberty and reason still reign.
All writers are prone to becoming so attached to our characters and stories that we struggle to see why a passage may not be working. It takes another set of eyes to help us nurture our writing to full maturity. At Black Wolf Editorial Services, we strive to enable writers to develop and grow, shaping stories into masterpieces that can stand the test of time. Editing services are provided for all genres and all age categories. Services range from critiques of the short story through to the line edits of the full-length novel and copy editing for those preparing for publication. We also offer assistance on generating a writer's bio for your websites, as well as help with those book blurbs and promotional material. We won't abandon you to the masses. We want to celebrate with you in your successes. Black Wolf Editorial Services, nurturing your writing into maturity. For a full list of services and prices, visit us at blackwolfeditorial.com.
Individuals and businesses with tax problems, listen carefully. Do you feel like you're losing control over your finances? If you owe over $10,000 in back taxes or have unfiled tax returns, we can help you take back control. The IRS is the largest and most aggressive collection agency in the world, and they can seize your bank account, garnish your paycheck, close your business, and file criminal charges. Take control of your tax problems now by calling the experts at Tax Mediation Services and take advantage of the Fresh Start program and new laws that may allow us to negotiate a settlement for the lowest amount possible. Our team of tax attorneys and enrolled agents can stop collections and get you protected so you can take control of your financial future. Tax Mediation Services is accredited by the Better Business Bureau. Call now for a free case review and a price protection guaranteed quote.
Call Tax Mediation Services now at 800-610-9050. That's 800-610-9050. 800-610-9050.
KLRN Radio has advertising rates available. We have rates to fit almost any budget. Contact us at advertising@klrnradio.com.
This is Slickery Trigger for Rebel Road Tactical. With proper care and feeding, your pistol will be ready when you need it, there to save your life. Shouldn't your gear be that good? Whether you need a holster for comfortable everyday carry or a tough-as-nails holster for your next training course, Rebel Road Tactical has what you need. Check us out on the web at rebelroadtactical.com.
Tired of paying outrageous prices for Viagra? Well, we have great news for you. Now you can finally get Viagra at huge discounts. Healthy Man allows you to save up to $500 on Viagra. Why pay U.S. pharmacy prices of $15 per pill or more when you can get Viagra for less than $3 a pill? Call today and get 40 Viagra pills for only $99. This can cost as much as $600 at your local pharmacy. You can't afford not to call us. If you want Viagra at the lowest prices, never pay $15 a pill pharmacy prices again. Get Viagra for less than $3 a pill. Call 1-800-516-7602 today and save up to $500 and get 40 pills for just $99. Healthy Man is fast, easy, and affordable. Operators are waiting at 1-800-516-7602 to take your call right now. Call 1-800-516-7602. That's 1-800-516-7602. Again, 1-800-516-7602.
You're listening to the Spark Radio Network, internet radio like you've never heard before. Innovation, creativity, and imagination are all said to begin with a spark. So fasten your seatbelt and take the ride of your life and listen for the spark.
I'm proud as hell, I can't bring myself to do what it is you think I should.
All right, folks, we are back. We are live. This is Jen and Rick right here on KLNRradio.com. And actually, I know we've been talking debate, but we brought up something on the break that you guys couldn't hear that I think is actually... Yeah, I mean, it's something that deserves to be talked about. We have a friend, a friend of the station who actually is a writer and a fairly well-known comedian by the name of Michael Loftus. He actually does a podcast that we usually air here every Thursday night at, I believe it's 8 Eastern, 7 Central. We've had to move it around a little bit with all the schedule changes, but I think that's where he landed, which was 8 Eastern, 7 Central. And it's a pretty good show. I mean... he does have the language a little salty, so lately I've been having to click the explicit tag, but if you don't mind little cursing, because it is a podcast, can't really hold him accountable for that. But I kind of want to talk about something else that he's been doing, because he's been in New York, and for those of you that listen to the show that he does, you know this. But he's been in New York. He's actually back over there on the East Coast for a while, and he's actually writing for a show called Kevin Can Wait. I actually got a chance to sit down and watch it for the first time today because I don't really have much time for TV, and I'd managed to have an extra few minutes, and it was on the DVR, so I was like, hey, you know what? I know somebody that's writing for this. I'm going to check it out because I want to do my part to make sure that a buddy of mine keeps getting a paycheck. But that was the first reason I had to turn it on. I was like, hey, I know this guy. I want to support what he's doing. But then, it was just one of those things where it's only a 30-minute show, but it reminded me of the old school sitcoms that we all grew up with. Not the ones that had the secret ulterior motives and were trying to teach you heavy life lessons, etc. But it was just good comedy. It was great. I mean, this is a fairly new show. The simple fact of the matter is, it already felt like it was a cast that was really comfortable with each other, and I think a lot of that may have to do with the writing, because I do know that Michael actually has been writing things for a while. I mean, he's been part of like the George Lopez show and a few other shows. I mean, he's a really good writer, and I think that actually shows, because normally when you get a brand new cast and a brand new show, they seem stiff at first because they don't know how to work with each other yet. They don't fully get a read with each other. And there is going to be some of that on this show. I mean, without a doubt, at some point, if it stays around long enough, you're going to see them grow into their characters and they're going to get more comfortable with them. But there's not a lot of that complete awkwardness. Like the first season of Cheers, it was a really great show, but everybody was kind of stiff because they were still learning their characters. By season 2, they understood them a little more, and it was kind of like going in and hanging out with old friends, because they'd gotten used to their characters, you'd gotten used to them playing the characters, and hell, some of them now you see them and you're like, dude, you can't ever be anybody else but Norm, so go away. And it's just one of those things. It actually kind of reminded me of Cheers, because Cheers was a really good sitcom. It had a really good basis, had really good actors and actresses, and so far, I mean, like I said, first episode I've watched, but it was really good. So hats off, Michael.
I always like to support someone who is still Hollywood, even though they are outed as conservative. I think that's pretty cool, and to just have that kind of sitcom out there again is really nice. Like you and I were talking on the break, there was a time where it was oversaturated with that kind of sitcom, and now it seems like there's a real void, and so it's cool. I'd like to give it a chance and see how it does, especially since we have sort of a relationship with Michael.
Well, I mean, it helps that I'm like a big fan of Kevin too. I've liked his work. I think my favorite movie he's done lately was the original Paul Blart Mall Cop. The second one, I don't know if anybody else has seen that. I was kind of disappointed in that one, but the first one was actually just completely entertaining in the stupid comedy kind of way. That's one of the reasons why I really, up until lately, haven't really been watching too many movie comedies, because it just seems like the writing for those have gone completely into absurdity. This sitcom is not one of those times, and some of the sitcoms have tried to do a lot of the same thing, and this is actually just an old school classic sitcom, and it just works. So I really, really hope CBS hangs on to this one, not only because I know the guy that's making money off the writing, but because I think it's going to be a pretty good show if they stick with it.
Yeah, very cool. Very cool. Glad to plug it.
All right, so that actually burned a few more minutes than I wanted it to, but I just got just one of those things, it's kind of like we were talking on the break. I'm just kind of hitting that saturation point because, it's been all over Twitter for days. Everybody talked about how Trump was going to put her away. This debate was going to be over before it started, and she wasn't going to have a leg to stand on, and now we're standing here, and Hillary's basically... I mean, it's like a recreation of that scene from Rocky when Sylvester Stallone finally runs up the stairs at the library in Philadelphia. Except this time it's Hillary standing at the top of the stairs, jumping up and down, and Trump's at the bottom going, "What the hell just happened?"
Yep. And then all of us, conservatives or never Trumpers or whatever you want to call us, that can't stomach the camera going, oh my gosh, we're flailing right along with you. What the heck has this country gotten us into with these two choices, and with a candidate that is a GOP candidate that is openly calling for the banning of gun buying and ownership of people on a watch list that suspends due process, is nothing short of mind-blowing for me.
It is. I mean, not to bring up what you just talked about, but let's let this sink in for maybe folks that haven't listened for the first time, and everybody that's wondering, why are these two always on here talking bad about Trump with all the terrible things that Hillary's done. Simple fact of the matter is everybody knows the terrible things that Hillary's done. They've been covered, they've been talked about, the FBI's investigated her, the FBI was bought off or whatever's happened. But the simple fact of the matter is there are things that are going on with Trump that nobody's talking about. Like the fact that for the first time ever, we have a GOP candidate who's actually been using leftist talking points since the RNC. We have a GOP candidate who now wants a modification of Bernie Sanders' daycare plan. That everybody on the right was like, oh my God, look what Bernie's doing now. How are we going to pay for that? Now Trump cuts everything in half. Oh, best plan ever. It's so awesome. We're going to save so much money on this by the time he's done. I mean, dude, I saw Bill Mitchell completely turn himself into a pretzel because somebody put a side-by-side tweet of what he said when Sanders recommended nearly the same exact plan right next to the one that Trump recommended a few weeks ago. And he's like, oh, Bernie, free daycare. How are people going to pay for this? Oh, Trump, free daycare. This is going to help so many single moms.
Yeah.
Like, what? What? So, wait, when it's their idea, it was terrible because nobody's going to be able to pay for it? When it's all right, when it's the right's idea, oh, it's great. Dude, that's what's gotten us into this mess. Nobody stands for anything anymore. They don't have any genuine ideas of their own. All they do is say, well, anything this side says is bad and anything this side says is good.
Right. And I mean, that's the same thing we've accused the left of for so long, is to say, oh, if our guy does it, we like it. But if a Republican does it, heck no. And that's kind of how it's always been. And they've done it quite often. And now that's what the right is doing. I mean, this is where this entire process has just shown just how derailed the quote-unquote conservatives are, getting us to this point and then now having this man as a GOP nominee and the way in which they are having to manipulate, morph, evolve is the word they're using the most, or whatever else to support him and defend his absolutely un-Republican ideas and policies, and then also, his insanity. I mean, his outbursts, his language against that he's used in regards to other people, the name calling, the insult slinging. I mean, that all of this stuff and the way that they are just contorting themselves in order to rationalize, justify, and defend it is I think the worst part of all.
Oh, so I just realized that I'm being a terrible host and had never gotten into the chat room. We actually have folks in there. So, hi, Ron. Hi, Jess. How are you? Sorry, guys.
Bad.
Show's almost over, and I finally came in here. So, yeah.
Oh, well, I was running so down to the wire because I lost track of time that it was all I could do to get my computer on and get Skype up. So, my bad.
So anyway, Ron actually had something. We're getting down to the last few minutes, so I kind of thought I'd see if anybody was typing anything interesting in the chat. And Ron actually, as usual, hasn't disappointed. When did entertainment become the major criteria by which we elect a president? Sometime in 2016, apparently.
Yeah, exactly. 2016 royally sucks. That's just the bottom line.
SMOD 2016. I'm still pulling for it.
Yes.
I'm just saying.
Yes. Our guy, great.
So, I mean, it just overall, it was a disappointment. Look, I'm not pulling for either one of them, but I still wanted to see somebody actually tell me what they're going to do to fix this mess. Well, nobody told me what they're going to do to fix this mess.
Well, what I think that was one of Trump's better moments was when he did come back and say, okay, well, you've got ideas now and you know how you're going to fix it now. And you've been elected for 30, or you've been involved in the government for 30 years. Like, why are you just now doing that? That was so strong. That really was a great point to make. Like, why now? Things were terrible in various aspects when you held elected office, but also the entire time you've been able to influence. But I think that I want to bring up, and I brought this up last night, that I think one thing that he's really missing on is that when she hits him on anything, no matter what it is he said or how crazy he was about it prior to announcing his candidacy to run for president, all he has to do is say, sorry, I wasn't an elected official, or I wasn't, working for the government. Not valid, not a valid point. Oh, because I said something to a talk show host. Oh, because I said something on the red carpet. Oh, because, I said this to an employee. Doesn't matter. Doesn't count. I had no effect on an administration or on a Congress or playing with American citizens' lives. You did. So you answer for it, not me. And that's the main thing. And it doesn't, I brought it up about the Iraq war, and it doesn't matter. He wasn't elected. He wasn't in government. So his record going, to Howard, saying something to Howard Stern is not really a record to compare to hers in the Senate. And he just needs to say it every time anything like that is brought up. And I think that his entire campaign should be screaming that, and they are super remiss to not. And so I think,
to be fair, his whole advisory team probably is screaming that, and Trump's sitting in the room with his fingers in his ears, la, 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 can't hear you.
Don't envy them. I really don't. I mean, he's outright said that he doesn't need that, but yet he'll get the best people. He'll get the best people when he's in office, the best, and so they'll handle all the stuff. But
yeah, because he has the best people now. I mean,
whatever.
I don't know. I mean, like I said, I just keep going back to it, and it's like my wife. My wife is seriously not into politics, not at all. Most of the time when I start sitting down to write an article or sit down to start prepping for a radio show, she looks at me like I've grown a third head and sprouted 16 extra eyes. So, it's just not her. So, last night, because there was a football game, I actually had to leave the game early to come home to get ready to prep. Well, she stayed for the rest of the game. And then right before we went on the air, she went into the room and she turned on the debate and she said, I got to tell you, I changed the channel after 10 minutes. It looked like two kindergartners throwing finger paint at each other. She said it not only was it not entertaining to me, they weren't answering questions. They were too busy being accusatory with one another instead of telling people how they were actually going to fix things. And that's my thing. Look, I understand why Trump has done what he's done up until now and kept all of his policies or supposed policies hush-hush, etc. And I understand not wanting to telegraph to your enemies your entire playbook. But it's about time that you start pulling back the curtain just a little bit so the American people can figure out whether you actually have any plans or not. And neither one of them is really doing that. What Hillary is proposing is crazy. What he's been proposing is basically the exact same thing. They're both going to spend money like crazy. Neither one of them is going to do anything about the out-of-control spending. They're going to run up even more of a budget deficit, and that's what we're passing on to our kids at this point. Look, I understand that everybody wants to go along to get along, and they're just like, yeah, it's not that big a deal. The government pulls in billions of dollars a year in tax revenue, etc. That's great, but when you're pulling in billions and billions of dollars a year and you're spending trillions, there's a problem.
Well, right. And I just don't even know what else to say about it. It's just so depressing. It's just so depressing.
Oh yeah, Ron, it's all right. Yeah, but yeah, the morning show, the other show has moved to mornings. It's now on 11 to 2 Eastern. Not always a full 3 hours. I do my best to try to get at least a full 3 hours in there. Sometimes it's mixed up. Sometimes it's live stuff thrown in with other stuff. I got to be honest, tomorrow morning's going to be a bit of a remix because it's been a long couple of days and I don't have it in me to sit here for another 3 hours recording. But yeah, so just remember, it is there. And like I tell everybody else, I really don't care when you listen, just as long as you listen. And at this point, you can ask Jess. There's about 1 million different ways to find us now, because every time I turn around, she's putting us on somewhere else. Like apparently we have a Blueberry account now. I didn't even know we had that until yesterday. I was like, I should go check that out. I didn't know we had that.
Awesome.
All right, so believe it or not, we are almost out of time already. why don't we do what we normally do at the end of every show, and you can remind folks where it is that they can interact with you when you're not hanging out with me.
Sure. Follow me on Twitter at jholmstead, and then J.R. Homestead on Facebook, and misfitpolitics.weebly.com.
And I, of course, am Rick Robinson. You can follow me on Twitter at AOTR_host. You can go to the America Off the Rails Facebook page and give it a like. You can also find my professional Facebook page at www.facebook.com/RowdyVickyRobinson. Shoot me a friend's request. We'll talk, we'll chat, we'll hang out. It'll be great. If you're old school like me and you like to write emails, Jess is laughing right now because she knows how much I really don't like to write emails, but it's just something I've always said, mainly because I use email at work. But you can also do that as well. You can email me one of two ways, Ricky@thesparkradionetwork.com and Rick@klrnradio.com. And those are all the ways you can keep up with us. I do highly recommend Twitter, not necessarily for JR. I'll let her make her own recommendations. But if you want to interact with me, that's usually the quickest way to do it because I pretty much always have my phone on me.
Me too, definitely.
Well, on that note, folks, we are out for the night. Coming up next, we have the Rhino Report, and we'll be back with you on Thursday night, and I will be with you again. Let's see, tomorrow's Wednesday morning, putting up a replay for that. So I'll be back with you Thursday morning, then Thursday night, and then we've got Friday morning and Friday night. Believe it or not, we're almost halfway done. Yay! We're out. Have a good night.
I'm proud as hell, I can't bring myself to do what it is you think I